Hello and welcome to Vet Talks. Today I want to touch a little bit on what it is. What is it like to join the military life? One of the things that the well, for the most part, it's a shock. It's a shock to the system. You know, you join the military, you show up to reception on a bus after you flew into wherever your basic training is going to take place. And once you get off the bus, that's when the yelling starts. That's when there's a drill sergeant in your face and he's yelling at you, everybody line up and blah, blah. And maybe you've never been yelled at that way. Maybe you just kind of like, what? What's going on? I remember I was at the end of the bus because I was the first one to get on the bus. And sure enough, I got yelled at because I was the last one off the bus. It's like, how do you win from that? And then once you go to reception, and then they cut off your hair, and like I said, you're not able to have any facial hair. So for a lot of people, the cutting off of the hair is a huge ordeal. And then it was like a straight up buzz cut. Like there was no, fading or nothing. It was just straight one big old thing. And I remember. You had to sleep in these bunk beds around all these people, and I remember I think it was like the second night because you had to rotate and take turns to do what they call fire guard. In case there's a fire, you got to tell everybody to get out of the barracks. And I remember these two particular guys were so shock and awe that they weren't going to have any of this, and so they tied some bed sheets. We were on the second floor, so they tied some bed sheets to a bunk bed, and they actually went out the window and they ran. And mind you, they're only in like PT shorts and PT shirt. We didn't have, you had basically that the uniforms. So they ran, and I remember we got word that they got caught. They actually ran in towards the area that you go for the actual basic training. Because in reception, you're in one section. After you complete your reception qualifications, you got to do a PT test. You got to be able to make it to the other side to start your training because they're going to tear you down, so you had to be physically fit. So yeah, for a lot of people, it's hard to accept the shock and awe of being in the military because you lose your identity, you lose your freedom, and it's easy for, yeah, you're going to get homesick, you're going to get all that stuff, but it's easy for when you start listening to your fellow other people that are in the same situation. It's easy when they decide that, yeah, they've had enough, and sometimes it's easy to convince you. Fast forward from that, we're getting ready to deploy, first deployment, and I was a driver. We had a Humvee. It wasn't it was pretty much like a regular Humvee. It wasn't up armored or anything like that. It didn't have none of the, it wasn't like a new one. It was kind of an old one. But before we deployed, we staged in Kuwait, and I remember, we were packing our magazines full of bullets, and I remember one guy was talking about, hey, you want to make sure that spring inside the magazine has enough tension. So what he would do is he would take apart his magazine, and he would take the spring. There's a spring on the inside. He would stretch it out a little bit, and then he would slap it back in there, and he put on the bottom cover. And there's sometimes people would tape the bottom cover because it could easily slide off. When you're if you bend it out too much, the bullets will come out. And so it is about maybe 2-3 o'clock in the morning. We're staged and we're getting ready to cross from Kuwait into Iraq. And I remember we get the green light, lock and load. And so I get my first magazine and I slap it into my weapon, and when I slap it into my weapon, I'm doing a motion like I'm slapping it in, but I go forward a little bit. And in doing so, I take that little bottom part of the magazine. It basically slides with my hand. It goes forward, and all the bullets fall out. So we're taking off, and I got 30 bullets on the floor, and I got to get another magazine, and I just wasted one whole magazine, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is a horrible way to start. You know, I'm going into war, and already I'm just fumbling the ball. It seemed like. So yeah, there's a lot of shock and awe in the military. You know, I will share some more war stories, but you know that one there was my introduction into my first deployment. Uh, you know, the big thing about the Army is they don't want you to think about it too much. Just do it. They give you a command, you just do it. Just kind of like when I was jumping out of airplanes. They go to the process of, you know, putting you up in these towers, and you jump out of these towers and these zip lines, and there's a 34-foot tower that you're supposed to identify the view if you have a fear of heights. And sure enough, I had that fear of heights. I had it, and I just kept telling myself, something about it, just do it. You know, just go into robot mode and just do it. And even though I was deadly afraid of heights, I just went through it. I just told myself, hey, just, and it's not that I was a robot, but it's just kind of like you have to have that mindset sometimes. And that's the way, if you do decide to join the military, you have to have a mindset that, hey, this is not going to be a walk in the park. You know, you're going to go through some big hurdles. You know, and not just that. I mean, you're being put into a situation where you have people from all over the country coming together, and yeah, y'all might not exactly connect. Y'all might have some friction, and you have to learn to work around it. So the Army life, it's interesting because of the way that it molds you. And when you're molding somebody, it's not always the easiest way, but it's done for a purpose, because the military needs you to do certain things that they don't want you to just. They want you to just follow orders. They tell you to go forward, you go forward. They tell you to take that hill, you take that hill. You don't sit there and say, wait a minute, that doesn't look like a good idea. You don't question it, you just do it. And that's the discipline that the military builds into you. So for those that they want to challenge themselves and want to see something outside of their regular life, by all means, join the military. You will be challenged. All right. With that being said, I'll see you later.